Hello, this is Crystal with 21st Century Prepper, hosting our very first Ladies Only podcast. Tonight I have with me Eva.
Hi.
And Lisa.
Hi, guys.
And Eva owns Beyond MREs and is a moderator on Everything Prepper and Plan D. And Lisa's pages are Shit Hit the Fan Prepping and Survival and the ladies group Shit Hit the Fan Prepping and Survival. So, ladies, let's start with talking about bug out bags. Talk to us about what items you feel are essential for ladies to carry in their bug out bags and, just your thoughts behind those. Eva, can you start us off?
Sure. Well, basically, we're going to have most of the same needs that guys are going to have, but we're going to have a few things that are going to be different. Obviously, most of us are going to need to deal with menstrual issues, so we're going to need to have some set of tampons or pads or a Diva cup or something to handle that. Also, things like birth control are important to have stockpiled in our bag. Because of birth control pills being an issue for a lot of people, condoms might be a better idea, especially because it may be a situation where there's another woman in the group or we run into somebody might need some assistance with that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my big issues, I have long hair. I always make sure I have plenty of hair ties.
Yep.
And a bandana and a hat.
Yep.
Especially because if you're somewhere, depending on where you're going to be, even if you are leaving your home temporarily and you're just going to be at a friend's house for a few days, sometimes the bathrooms get busy. Maybe the water pressure isn't good enough for you to be able to get a shower every day or wash your hair every day. So you want to have some way to manage your hair so you can function. Having extra underwear and socks are just important for anybody, but it's just a good reminder. You want to have clothes that you're going to be comfortable in, no matter where you are, if you're at a friend's house or if you're camping somewhere or relocating somewhere, some things you're going to be comfortable in. Yep. Sometimes if we need to leave in a hurry, we may be dressed in professional clothes or heels or a dress because we were out to dinner or doing something. So it's important to be able to have shoes that are going to be functional.
Absolutely.
So those are some quick things.
Yep. Lisa, got anything else to add to those or any other thoughts?
Yes, I don't keep my hiking boots in my bag, per se. Mm-hmm. They are always in either the back seat or the far back of my compact SUV. Always. And I always keep spare socks, like a wool blend of some kind, a merino wool, and I just jam one in each shoe or each hiking boot because I have been out before and I had newer shoes and I had blisters, and it wasn't a desperate situation where I needed to get home. It was just a going out in new shoes and my feet really hurt. So I grabbed a Band-Aid from my little first aid kit in my purse and then put on my socks and my shoes, and that really helped me just from going out and about in town. Okay. But I also keep in my car bottles of water, some kind of filtration, those little life straws or Sawyers, mm-hmm. and usually have fire starter of some kind, a couple different kind, whether it's a little ferro rod or a couple lighters. And I always have lighters in my glove compartment and in my purse. Mm. But in my bag, change of clothing, extra socks, extra undergarments, some kind of food stuff. Just lighter stuff, granola bars, because I'm never too far from home. If I worked, 30, 40 miles, mm-hmm. I would probably up my food, but I just have a couple bottles of water and a pack of granola bars, and usually some kind of nuts and fruit, which is kind of granola bar, but it's just an additional. But that's just in my everyday bag, and I only work 3 miles from home, so.
Oh, nice.
So that's not bad. Yeah.
Not at all. Okay, well, I think that actually covers quite a bit of it. The only thing I had was that I make sure, I don't know about you ladies, but I know I sweat, especially when I'm outside doing things. So I have powder and wipes in mine. Like Ava was talking about, depending on the shower situation, a wet wipe is a lifesaver in a lot of situations. Just make sure, ladies, again, depending on what you're clothed in, I would recommend probably throwing in a sports bra in there. That's what I have in mind, because if I'm going to be walking at a brisk pace, I'm going to want to have a sports bra. I'm going to want that extra just coverage than regular bra that I would wear to work. I love the hair tie idea. I had that on my list too. Hair ties can be used for all sorts of different things, so I like that. going back to that birth control, that was really good because a lot of times when you're in a situation, that's not going to be on the forefront of your mind. But it's also one of those things can be a life changer if you don't think about it. I know a lot of women that are preppers might even consider the insertables that are good for 5 years, something like that. If you're not planning on having children, it might be something to look into. That way, if something were to happen, you don't have to automatically think about. But it's really the lady's choice on that. But I think those are all really good topics. One other thing I had on my list was sometimes bug out situations are going to be, you've got fires in the area and you have to grab your kids and your stuff and go. You might be in the car or in a hotel, you have children with you. I would just make sure that you've got something with you that can, keep them occupied because, their mind's going to be 100 miles an hour just as yours is. But kids, if they've got something to do, are usually calmer. I would just add that in there. Either it could be as simple as something, some games on your iPhone or iPad or just whatever you've taken with you that has stored all your electronic documents. Throw a game on there or two. It's easy. You've already taken it with you, and it keeps your kids occupied.
That is a great idea. One thing I do have in my car is a solar charger. I've ordered 4 of them, but I always keep one in my car, and I have a bank, which is really nice. And I use that one when I travel, when I have to go to airports. And that will charge 4 or 5 iPads to 100%, or your phone half a dozen times.
Very nice.
That one I always take when I'm in the airport. But yeah, the solar ones are good. They're like $15-20. Throw it in your car. So as you're walking, a lot of them will have a carabiner. You just throw it on the back of your pack, and you can charge as you go. But that's a good idea about having extra apps for the kids, because even if I'm at a funeral, this is really bad, but if I'm somewhere serious where the kids I know are going to be in a red flag where they're not supposed to be wild, if I just bring that out, which isn't awesome, but if I bring it out, I know they'll behave and it'll keep their minds and their fingers going. So that's a great idea about busy work for kids in a tough situation.
Yeah.
There's something with the solar chargers, because some of my solar chargers are actually 5 years old now, and I've used them out in the field. They really do take about 72 hours to charge under good solar conditions when you have a decent amount of sun. So I actually have multiples of them, and after several years or several charges, usually you'll lose a bank on them. On one of the chargers. So you just want to keep that in mind. It's also a good idea to maybe have an extra USB cable, since most of them charge using that, because they're liable to get broken or damaged.
Very true.
But I think I have like about 5 of the solar chargers for 2 units for my own 2 personal phone and tablet, just because I know that depending on what situation is, I have multiple bags, so they can either go in there, or that I always have backups. If one of them is charging, I always keep them charged also.
So since this is a ladies-only podcast, I really want to, because a lot of our members, a lot of the ladies maybe haven't always had a prepper mindset, maybe are just now getting into it, getting their feet wet. I'd like for us to be able to offer them some encouragement to go ahead and take the leap into, having a prepared mindset. What was the hardest thing that you've ever faced mentally, to whether it be, people making fun of you or something like that? What would you say as encouragement to women that are kind of thinking like this but haven't quite made the leap over?
I would say break it down into segments, because I felt like I wanted to do everything so fast and it would keep me up at night.
Yes,
but
me too.
I broke it down into food and water and then anything healthcare related. I chunked it out, and I would do, and you can't do everything at once because I don't know who has thousands just laying around. But I remember just doing a dozen cans one week, a case of water, and then I would start with flour and sugar and buy in bulk. It's totally possible if you just put things in little compartments. Maybe just start with lists and not just look at the whole thing as, I need lights, I need energy, I need food and water and filtration, because it's so overwhelming. But chunk it up. Get at least one person that you can call and talk to, whether it's instant messaging, one of us or one of the ladies in your group or whatever prepper group you have. It might not be your best friend, because I've gotten a lot of funny stares from my best friends. Yes. I have 3 girlfriends, and they all just, kind of give me the laugh and the sideways look, and I'll just come to your house if it all goes south. And then, I didn't say anything then, But I have come back with them, and I have said, remember when we talked about this? How are you doing with that? Did you ever get, a couple cases of water or a case of soup in case, the weather turns bad and your power goes out? And one of my girlfriends did say, yeah, I got a few cans of soup, but I haven't gotten any water yet. But, then she brought it up again. But I know I can just come to your house. And I said, I don't take vacations like I used to. I really do stress that it's a priority to just carve a little bit out of your budget and do it for yourself, because I'm not including you in what I have. Right. And of course I got the looks about, or, that I was selfish, or we didn't exactly say that, but I was trying to be sensible. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of a rip the Band-Aid off kind of person, and I'm a bit blunt, and sometimes it might not go over well, but sometimes sharing less with people around you can be a lifesaver. Literally.
I agree. Anything encouragement-wise that you would try to, lift up those women that, are kind of in the same boat, that, they might be thinking about this, but they haven't shared it with anybody because they're afraid, because right now you hear prepper and the media is like, oh, crazy people. So what kind of encouragement might you offer?
Well, since I started as a teenager, I've never really understood any other type of lifestyle. So some of that is a little bit of a hurdle. But I can come back from the point of, I think all of us in our lives, we go through some sort of economic upheaval, whether it's a divorce, a loss of a job, loss of where we were living because of roommates changing, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But we've all experienced a point where we've had to start over, maybe. Yeah. Or, so I understand from that point. And sometimes there's not a lot of spare money, so you have to work off of those little bits at a time. So kind of just keeping on that initial thing that FEMA has actually recommended, to look at 72 hours. Can you make yourself have food for 72 hours for your family? And then the water for that. And then, okay, what happens if for some reason you don't have power and you're going to have to go to a friend's house or a family member's house? Right. Do you have a bag packed for that? Mm-hmm. This has just been so normal in my life. For instance, when I had a family member that had to go in for emergency surgery, she already had a bag packed. Mm. She was 90 years old. My grandmother, Aww. She modeled. She said, just grab my bag. I said, well, where is it? And she knew she could tell me exactly where it was, so I just brought her bag to the hospital. Nice. But she was already packed. This Perfect. Is just the life, most of the time our grandparents did these things. Yes. So reaching back and maybe talking to our elders or talking to maybe a neighbor, they love to share that type of information with us. And sometimes they're a good person, and sometimes maybe they need somebody there to talk to, and so they can feel valued. So it creates a sense of community, and it can be helpful for everyone. I agree. Now, there's something I just thought of. If you're, for the ladies, usually, and dads do this too, but generally it's us moms that kind of mama bear the kids. And if the kids are old enough, have them have their own backpacks too. It doesn't have to be heavy, it doesn't have to be fancy, but, having them have a little backpack doesn't hurt either, so.
And how many of our kids have old backpacks from last year and the year before?
Yes.
I say I'm using my son's last year's bag for my ammo, target, range stuff when I go to the cabin, so that all I have to do is pick it up, and I know I have 75 targets ready to go. I have my ammo ready to go. There's eyes and ears in there. So there can be different bags for different things, but I know most moms of elementary, junior high, even senior high kids, just save your backpack. Don't donate them right away. Just throw them in a cabinet or find some use for them. Yeah. And maybe for somebody who doesn't have that, or maybe their kids are a little bit younger and they don't have last year's, looking at secondhand stores is a great way to get a lot of gear too.
Oh yeah, thrift stores are gems when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yep. Goodwill has a ton. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and they had a lot of backpacks, and they even have overrun on stores. They'll have brand new ones at deep discounts, and they'll have, a name brand on it, like, I don't even know, Nestle, and then there's a bunch of bags. So who cares what it says, but you don't need it to be fancy. You just need it to be, somewhat sturdy, and then put whatever you need in it. Yeah. Another thing that I have in my bag, and I think it's really important for anybody, is just a simple first aid kit. I have a quick story I wanted to tell you guys. I was at the park years ago when my kids would be on the monkey bars and swings. my kid slipped his grip on a monkey bar and he fell on his chin and he was gushing blood from his chin everywhere. And I was that mom that didn't have a simple Band-Aid while my poor child could use maybe a stitch or two. Not a lot, but I had nothing. So we went to the park and I was holding him with my shirt tucked under him while we kind of walked together. And at that point, I had my moment of get it together. So I got him, cleaned up and we got home and it was fine. We just cleaned it out, put a Band-Aid on. But since then, that is when I started carrying my everyday kit for a first aid kit or a mini first aid kit. And in that, I keep a thin maxi pad just for moments like that because it was a bit more than a tissue moment. And it was a thin maxi moment. So now I keep, and it's already wrapped in its little pink container, tri-folded, super neat, so nothing will get on there, no dust, no nothing. And it has multiple uses. I have stepdaughters that, I go out with, and they might need a little something. So I keep a couple in there. I keep Band-Aid. I keep a little tube of Neosporin. So that is really important to me to have. I also carry in my little everyday carry kit tweezers, nail clippers, and a nail file. So do you guys have anything else in yours besides that in your first aid?
I also carry probiotics in my bag for a bob or an inch. Never coming home bag, because when we have a sudden change of diet, it's really important to make sure that we can digest everything properly, and it's especially important for ladies.
Yes.
Right. Good. Oh, one other thing I do have in my purse: pill separator or over-the-counter medication, and I put the labels from each box. And the labels I get are just from Aldi's, something for headache, kids' Tums, or not kids' Tums, just Tums in general. And I have kids' Tylenol, something for anti-nausea. So I have just like a Monday through Friday different labels, and I have that in my purse always. And I have dug into it. People at work having headaches, and I don't mind sharing because it's cheap enough. Those I think are really important to have. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that it's never anything bigger than that. But if it is just headache, fatigue, achy muscles, I'm able to make somebody feel better, and that is important.
Yes.
And we forgot the ubiquitous knife.
Yes.
Knives are useful for all different types of things, whether it be cutting a seatbelt, cutting a strip of fabric.
Yeah, should we talk about gear?
Anything.
What we have?
Yeah, let's, well, we were talking about the bug out bag, and a lot of times we all know that women do not come in one shape and size. We come in multiple shapes and sizes, and sometimes one bag is just not going to cut it. So what do you guys look for when you're looking for a nice, sturdy bug out bag?
Well, I just have a bag that I used when I hiked overseas when I did the whole European trip. I don't have a bag specific for the prepper mind. I just use what I have, and it's good enough for me. It has a couple compartments, something that can be easily tucked in on the bottom part. I also have one that has a metal frame, but I don't really use that one, just for my trunk. Just enough to carry a quick change of clothes, a couple underwear, a couple socks. My shoes are always in my car anyways. But I would say if you're looking for a bag, something that has a couple compartments, and use Ziploc bags to keep things dry, because if you're in the rain and you have just a plain canvas, if all you can afford is a cheap Goodwill bag, I don't judge that, but get your bags to keep your stuff dry, because putting on wet clothes when you're trying to get out of wet clothes would not be fun at all.
Right.
So compartments and plastic liners.
I do the same thing with the Ziploc bags. I buy the heavy freezer bags. I was hunting a couple years ago, and my bag was supposed to be water resistant, and we were in a torrential downpour, and I'm carrying my rifle around, and I didn't have a cover for it. We were just getting drenched. My entire bag was soaked. I had the little dry towels that are the size of a dime or a quarter.
Yeah.
And they were just a huge mess inside my backpack. So I did away with that backpack. That's my get home bag for the vehicle. That's, because that's really not going to see much rain. And I bought some heavier waterproof bags for longer situations where I might have to bug out. I'm closer in toward the city, so my time frame of being here is going to be very limited if things were to be very severe.
Yes.
Because water would be an option, population would be an option, and it just wouldn't be safe here. So I have to gauge things differently. I'm used to living in a rural situation, so I'd head back out. So I have multiple bags. I have like 4 different bags, one for my car, one quick grab for if I'm working and I'm just going to leave my home for a few days because the power's out and maybe I still have to go to work and I need to be dressed nicely and have my hair done.
Right.
So, or at least not look like I haven't had a shower in 2 days. That doesn't go over well. And those are real situations that happen. I mean, I'm in Maryland, so I'm in the DC metro area a lot of times, and we'll lose power, and it'll be just pockets. And I think it happens in many states, but especially happens on the East Coast. Hurricanes or a tornado or just a bad windstorm will take out pockets, and the rest of the state will be operational, and we still have to go to work.
Right.
So when you're in a situation like that, you still need a bag. So you need a 72-hour bag or a weekender style bag. So I have one bag that just has, things with all my hairspray and everything else that I might need to be dressed up for work. Mm-hmm. And then I have another bag that's my get out of Dodge type of bag.
Right.
And so those are different bags. One's a duffel bag, so my weekender bag, and then another one's a backpack with an internal frame that's bigger and has, as Lisa said, lots of compartments. Mm-hmm. And then I just put all my nice little neat bags in there, and everything stays dry and also together, so it's easy to find.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of people or a lot of women, I should say, get overwhelmed, like Ava was talking about. They don't know where to start. I would just, encourage them to just start somewhere. Just if you don't want to spend a lot of money, and honestly, gear doesn't have to be super expensive. It just has to meet your needs. So, go out and find a backpack or a bag and start putting those select items in there that we've talked about. And then just kind of evaluate what situation you might be in, toothbrush, toothpaste, your extra cell phone charger, and just start collecting things and putting them in that backpack, and just having it in case will give you a lot of peace of mind. Again, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be functional and work when it needs to. So don't allow yourself to be overwhelmed by all the different selections of backpacks and the fancy hiking ones. Just find something that meets your needs.
Perfect. That's what I did in the beginning.
Yep.
I would just walk around my house and say, what can I do without in my house? Because we're Americans, we have 10 of everything.
Oh,
and
yes.
And what can I put in my car if I'm caught out and I have to walk home?
Yes.
Well, here's, an extra, okay, I love Mora knives. They're cheap, they're strong. I'm not a big bushcrafter, but I try to do new things. In Mora's, over the holidays, they were on sale on Amazon. I have about a dozen of these darn Mora knives, and I love them. Mm. And I will put a couple in my glove compartment. I brought a couple up to my cabin. I bought my kids one, even though they're 7 and 10. I don't give it to them yet. But I just know when they're cheap, I'm hard on stuff, and sometimes I lose things. And so I just start putting things in the bag. And when I get to a point where I feel like I'm doing pretty good, then I went in and I kind of organized it. And then I found the Ziploc bags, a multi-tool, my knife, my paracord, maybe a tarp. And then other stuff is more functional, like, if you need stuff for kids or your extra clothing. But just slowly look around your house and see what you have spare and throw it in a bag. Yeah. And then when you feel like it's getting bigger and it's getting heavy, then find ways to organize it better.
And don't forget cash. I know a lot of people think that if they're bugging out for the hills, but throw a 20 in there or 50 if your budget allows for it. You never know when you could just need some cash. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be a shit hit the fan situation. If you're driving along and you misread your gas tank or something and you need $20, I mean, you'll have it. You don't even have to worry about it. You can just pull that cash and meet that need.
You know how many times I have used my $20 bill that I have tucked in between my phone and my case?
Lots of times.
I'm up to 4. And it's not even dire. It's, hey, let's go get ice cream. Well, holy crap, I just ordered and I don't even have my purse because I grabbed like an extra bag that I have to return to Target. So, I'm used to carrying one thing when I go to my car. It was a return. And so here I am in line and I have no money. Not an emergency. I could have said, forget it. But, oh yeah, I have a 20 in my purse. Or in my phone case. And so I'm up to number 4 now, and I keep track because I think it's funny, but it's such a no-brainer. And my stepdaughters, they have the clear cases on their iPhones, and both of them have a 20 tucked into there, and I love it. And so I don't know if they've used it or not, but it's cool that it's rubbing off on these younger gals because, especially girls, we need to be able to, get some help. I know phones, you don't really go to a payphone, but I like when women are more prepared and they pull up their bootstraps and they take their welfare in their own hands. And so my stepdaughters are kind of copying me on just being aware and being prepared. And so now, I loved that I saw $20 tucked into their clear cell phone case. It was cool. It was a cool moment.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women need to hear that from other women, that the white knight's not always going to be there.
No.
It's great if they are, but don't expect it. Be able to provide for yourself.
Yes. Yep. Do it on your own.
So we talked about bags and we talked about a little bit of knives. Ava, did you have anything more to add about knives? I'm not a big knife person, but I think that maybe you might have some information.
I probably have 100 knives.
What's your favorite one?
My favorite one, it depends on what they are. I have an open L that my Vietnam vet stepfather gave me when I was 14. That's just a beloved tool. It's ancient. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those tools that it keeps a sharp edge, and I can throw it in the bottom of a bag, and no matter what, I pull it out and I know it's going to work. Okay. I have a beautiful custom knife that I had made recently that's beautiful and looks like a work of art, but it's magnificent. I have obscure ones made from a Russian knife maker, all different types, because I believe in buying the right knife for the right job.
Right.
My basic one that I carry on my hip when I hunt and when I'm out in the woods is a folder. I have a few fixed blade, but I tend to go with a lot of folders only because in Maryland it's not like I walk around with them on my hip.
Right.
So a straight knife at least. So I need to have a folder. So I think it's what's going to fit your hands. I think that's really important. A lot of the knives might be too big for a lady's hands, and some of us are smaller than other ones, and so it's important to get one that's comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's going to have a good sharp edge and that you can use without hurting yourself. Having fancy switchblades, it's just not necessary. Get one that's going to stay open when it's supposed to be open and shut when it's supposed to be shut, and that is forgiving and that you know how to keep sharp.
Very nice. Okay, those are some really good tips on knives. Why don't we jump into something that a lot of women find a little intimidating, handguns. I know a lot of women say that they're afraid of them. I would say that having one and knowing how to properly use it safely is essential. What do you guys think? What's your take on that?
I personally think that it's very important for women to be able to protect themselves before a person with bad intent gets more than 10 feet in front of them. Mm-hmm. Because although inside me I feel like Black Widow from the Avengers, but in reality I know I'm a 48-year-old mom that used to be athletic but not so much anymore. So my day job, I work at a gun shop and pro shop, and I schedule concealed carry classes, and I talk to a bunch of women on getting some proper training and getting some knowledge, because after you start getting knowledge and experience and information, the less scary it is. So we do like intro to pistol classes, we do ladies' night, and really what that does is it teaches you proper grip, proper stance, breathing, how to dress when you go shooting, because you don't want to wear cute clothes that are V-necks. I mean, shells or ammo casings are flying everywhere. But it's important, I think, that we understand like the mechanics of a gun. If there's misfires, if there's problems with it, get experience to fix it quickly before somebody gets 10 feet in front of you. And I think the carry and conceal is a really great idea for women. There's so much information. Not only do you have to qualify with live rounds, but there's a lot of legal talk about when to get involved, when not to get involved, what your legal responsibilities are. And our instructor says that every bullet that you fire, just rep 20 grand around it, because everybody you miss that you're shooting at, and if there's people behind your target, you're going to have to pay for that somehow. So get that training. Don't just, go out and buy a gun after you get your permit to purchase, because that's not being responsible. Go with somebody that has experience, whether it's your dad or your husband that's been in the military or your neighbor that's a cop. Pay for his range time or her range time and say, I'll buy the ammo, I'll buy your range time. Will you teach me how to shoot?
Right.
And you know what? The gun might not be right, but he'll teach you how to hold the gun properly, or you can rent a gun. Go with somebody that has experience and rent a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to somebody at the counter. What will be good for my size hands? Most women like smaller guns, like maybe a 380, or maybe even start with a 22. I know Ruger has some good ones that are really easy to shoot. That's what we use at the range to qualify people when we have our permit to carry class, is a Ruger 22. And it's easy. The grouping is tight because there's not much kick on it. I myself carry I switch, kind of like purses. I either carry a 9mm or a 380. And it's just training. It's like that muscle memory. You just know how to stand. We don't practice drawing from the hip or anything, but it might not be a bad thing. It's not really looked at too fondly in the gun range. Mm-hmm. But if you after you get more confident, try it. Or put snap caps in your gun and draw in your own home while everybody's in bed. I keep my locked gun in my box in my bed. Sometimes I'll take all the ammo out of my magazine. I'll put a snap cap in there. I will open it as quickly as I can. I'll run through a scenario like somebody's in my house. I open my box, I put one in the chamber, and I snap it. And that sees, I can kind of tell how shaky I am, or if I'm even there, if I'm any, good. But practice and practice and practice with your trigger pull, getting comfortable with the gun that you choose, but go and rent before you buy. Mm-hmm. So do research, talk to your friends who have similar builds like you, your hand size. Maybe not ask a guy who's 6'5", what should I buy?
Right.
Because he'll say, well, I love my 45. Well, God, for me, I wouldn't be very accurate because it's too much.
Right.
So, but I love it. I keep one in a belly band, and I also have an inside waistband carrier, or inside waistband holster. And I recently got a ankle and calf holster. And now I'm trying to decide what to fill it with. So I kind of went backwards, but since I work at a gun shop, I want to use the discounts. So,
can you get us discounts too? No.
Maybe. So, yeah, just go rent. Because I thought I wanted a M&P bodyguard. I thought, this is just what I want. It's small, it's petite, it fits in my hand. That thing was so kicky and had so much punch to it. I was all over the place. So I'm glad I didn't buy it.
I'm so glad I didn't either. I ended up buying the shield because I hated the bodyguard.
Yes, so I have a shield now. So, anyways, that's just me. I think guns are awesome. I really do, because I'm very aware of where I'm at physically, and I want to stop somebody before they get within 10 feet of me if they have bad intent.
Well, growing up, I get taught how to do hand-to-hand with knife, but again, I'm a little bit older, and even though I'm still athletic, a gun makes me feel a lot more secure. Because I don't really want to have to be in that hand-to-hand combat situation if I can help it.
Right.
So I've spent a lot of time doing the same thing, going to the ranges and going through all the different handguns, because I know what I used to use, but I also wanted something that was going to fit how I am now, because as we all get older, we all have different injuries, we all have different strengths, or depending on what our athletic abilities are at that point of our life, our shoulders may be stronger or less strong to be able to deal with different amounts of recoil. And I love 40s personally, but I carry a 9 just because I can get more ammo into a magazine. So that way I have more opportunities if I am pinned down somewhere in an active shooters type situation. I love my Ruger. I have an LC9S for carry, and then I also have a larger one for home protection.
Nice.
Just because that way I can use the same ammunition and I don't have to worry about having multiple types or grabbing a box and having to check the label for that particular ammo box. For concealed carry rigs, though, there are so many options, like you were saying, Lisa. I have corsets, which you can wear underneath a dress shirt, which are really lovely. I have the tank tops that have the pockets on the sides up around the chest, which are a little bit more difficult to access in most clothes, particularly like a turtleneck or something, but they're great if you have a button-down front shirt. Ankle carries, there's just so many options out there. So it's a matter of just finding, depending on what you're wearing, what type of concealed carry rig is going to work best for you, and then the size and the shape of your body to see what's going to be most comfortable. But there's so many options out there for ladies. I mean, if you go into a lot of the gun shops, if they don't have a lady that works there or somebody that's actually brought them up to speed with the wide variety we have available, the guys might tell you, well, you're going to have to wear jeans and a belt.
No.
Well, you know what? I walked in after when I was picking up one of my new units, and I walked in a pair of yoga pants with the corset underneath, dress boots, dressed up like I could have gone to work. And he had no idea that I was carrying a big 9mm on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I showed him, and I said, remember you said I couldn't wear yoga pants and carry? So, it's a surprise. And now they know, and they're going to be carrying those corsets in stock. And that's great, because all the ladies that come in now, they're going to have an option.
Right.
Because if you're in real estate, maybe you want to have a handgun handy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's so many things that we do on a day-to-day basis that it just makes us feel safer.
Right. No, I agree. Those are all options. And at the end of the day, don't be intimidated. Lisa talked about going to your local gun range. Most places have very nice ones. They have ladies' date night, if you will, where the ladies come in. They get instructor to come in. They get to, I think it's for a minimal fee. You get to play with a whole bunch of guns. Grips. You check the grips. You actually go into the range time and spend some time with each weapon to see if it's a good fit for you. And then afterwards, you wrap it up and you have a glass of wine upstairs with your friends. And it's just they try to make it very accommodating and very inclusive to where ladies don't need to be afraid anymore, and they don't need to be reliant on, their husband pushing them to get a 45 because that's what he carries. There are several options out there. Just go and see what's the best fit for you.
Yeah. There's also a great product that I've purchased that I've been using, and I actually bought for another member of the family who was training the other people in his house. It's called iTarget, and it allows you to actually use your mobile phone,
mm-hmm.
your smartphone, and use a target, and actually you can shoot with a dry cartridge in the house.
Oh.
So you can dry fire, but it looks like a regular ammunition cartridge, like a 9mm, but it keeps it from having any problems for doing dry fire. But it gets you good with your stance, and plus it can help you if you're in your house and you want to be able to protect yourself within the house. Kind of get an idea where you're going to be in relationship to where if somebody's coming through the door in that room. Been a great tool. We're teaching all the nieces and nephews.
That's great.
Very nice. I had never heard of that. So yeah, you always learn something. As a prepper, you always learn something, and that's what I love about it.
We have that at my shop as well, and we also have a simulator room.
Oh,
and
nice.
I know I did a round of that when I was training, when I first started my job, and it was really great because you take this little rubbery gun that has a laser on it, and they'll run different scenarios. And I chose a college lecture hall. And the students were sitting around in the lecture hall on different levels, and I could tell this one particular guy was looking really agitated. And we keep this, the gun down until something happens. And kids are doing the homework, like they're writing and listening, and pretty soon this guy starts yelling. And before he even reached in his bag, I pulled up and I shot him right in the forehead. Even though I was aiming for his chest, the forehead will do. But it was cool. So and we do that with our ladies' night and our date night. So we do ladies' night on Tuesday and date nights on Friday night. And they get one round of the sim. They get a gun rental of choice. Just check your local gun club. We want women to empower themselves and to get better, because it is our equal role to protect what's inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started shooting, it was because my husband was military at the time. And we just had babies, and he was always gone.
Yeah.
And I felt nervous. And he says, I don't know why we don't even just go shoot together. And I said, well, we should. And so he already had his sidearm. And he said, let's just go. We got a sitter, and we went. And I was nervous, and I was kind of skittish because I didn't know. But I wasn't really nervous because I'd always been shooting shotguns, and I had, boyfriends that did hunting, and I'd shot rifles, but I've never shot a handgun. But he just taught me. He said, let's just go. And we went. when I walked out of there, I felt really light. I felt buoyant. I felt happy that I did it. I wasn't as afraid, or I wasn't as scared as I thought it would be. It was repetition. Then we went again. Then we came home again. Then we went a couple more times. And pretty soon I bought a membership to the local club, and he was fine with that. And so it is all just that first step. And don't be afraid, ladies, of signing up for a class that might be mostly men. Because I schedule those classes, and I ask those guys, what do you think about ladies coming in here? And I swear almost every single one who is married says, I sure wish my wife would come with me.
Yes.
They don't say, well, what are those little ladies doing in here? Mm-hmm. They want the women in their lives to help them protect the family. So ladies, don't ever feel like I'm going to be intimidated or I'm nervous that all the guys are going to judge me. If anything, they're proud that you're stepping up and taking the initiative to help them with their job. It's like them helping you with dishes. It makes me happy when my guy does that.
Yeah.
So I cook dinner, you do dishes. It's all job share. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and for all the other single ladies out there like me, I have myself to count on, and
yeah,
and that's all there's been. Even when I was married, I was a leader and handled my end of things, and had just as many skills, if not more, than my ex-husband. Not to put him down, he's a great guy. We're still friends.
I like that disclaimer. The fine print at the bottom.
Yeah, well, he's still in my prep group. We're still end of the world, still like number one.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's just, skill sets. Everybody, when you're with a partner, you should develop complementary skill sets, but also at least be functional, be able to be secure and create security for your home. It's just basic skills. The other thing, we talked about the rigs, but we didn't mention some of the equipment we can put on handguns, sidearms. Lasers are great depending on how our eyesights are as we get older. Sometimes a little bit more difficult to see without glasses on or with glasses on. So red or green dot lasers are terrific to be able to help sight and be more accurate. Also, titanium sights are wonderful for night vision.
Yes.
And can be really helpful to be able to see a little bit more clearly even during the day.
Nice. Never thought about that. I just go with this. I like the glowing ones, but I never thought about the night ones. That's pretty cool.
That is a good
or
tip.
Like the day glow or maybe I should just get some paint for mine. I know they sell that. You can just dab little on your white dots. But that's, yeah. But I like the
It does.
idea
It makes
of red.
it as our vision changes, and I'm finding that even when I'm at the range, I have a lot of guys that are struggling, and they're like, well, what are you doing? I just show them what I've done with my sights and some of the other strategies I've done. And so I'm actually teaching a lot of the middle-aged guys because their sights changed from when they were younger, and they can't see both the sights and the target anymore.
Right.
That's great.
So
what is that called?
It's just a matter of acclimating to what works best for us.
What is that name of the sites that you have? I need to take note.
I have tritanium.
Tritanium or titanium?
Tri.
Okay. I'm looking that up. Look at that. I'm learning something new, too.
See, this is why we do this. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up, and I just wanted to thank you both very much for, being here and adding your knowledge to a whole bunch of women that are going to listen to this, and they may not even know that they're prepper minded, and they may already do some of this stuff. So thank you for taking the time and encouraging them. Appreciate you both.
You're welcome. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you very much. You too.
Okay, and this concludes this week's podcast, the very first ladies-only podcast for 21st Century Prepper. I'd like to remind you to go to 21st Century Prepper Facebook and 21stcenturyprepper.net. We're also on Twitter and Pinterest, so check us out there. And as always, thank you for listening.